So I went to the podcast show in London. It was my very, very first industry event. And here's what I learned. So the podcast show is a massive international conference which brings together some of the biggest names in podcasting and the podcasting business, and lets them rub shoulders with little indie guys like me. But before we go on, I've been a podcaster for just under a year now. My name is Tom and I host Tom Meets Interesting People. So what was my biggest takeaway from the podcast show? Well, all of these leaflets. I have so many leaflets. Now, sadly, I could only attend the one day because of work commitments. I would have loved to have done the 2.5 days, go to the preview, do the Wednesday and then do the Thursday, but work had other ideas. But even so, I think I definitely got my money's worth. As soon as I arrived, I had to make the most of my limited time there, and I was looking at the schedule. And I've got a big interest in AI, you'll know from my interview with Sam Plank. As it turns out, a YouTuber by the name of Mike Russell was doing a presentation on the different AI tools that we can use in podcasts. It was interesting to see one of the tools that I use in my business, ChatGPT, not get a mention, but I kind of understood why. What was interesting is that most of the tools that Mike presented to us were geared towards the post-production, how to clean up audio, for instance. The Adobe suite was mentioned. If you're already in that ecosystem, you're already well looked after. He mentioned Descript as an AI program, and I found that kind of interesting. I don't count Descript as an AI program personally. I think one of the reasons for that is because my brain takes the shortcut, and it can reconcile that ChatGPT is an AI, but can't reconcile that the tools behind Descript could also be artificial intelligence. I think maybe it's a bit like Grammarly, in which it suggests different suggestions for you, and maybe I should have a look at my script, because I cannot talk. Maybe like how Grammarly, even though that's powered by AI, doesn't feel like it is. One of the ones that I found the most interesting, maybe from somewhat more of an ethical point of view, was 11 Labs. I was kind of cognizant of it before, and how it can clone someone's voice from just, I think it was like 100 words? And part of me is like, oh, that's a lot of fun. Okay, yeah, we can make those Balenciaga videos. I know how problematic Balenciaga can be. Or I can use it to make myself or Obama say something funny. Hell, if I'm feeling lazy and a little bit cruddy, I could probably type in what I want to do as well, and it will just do it for me, you know, because laziness. But there's definitely that little bit of worry, that little bit of concern. No one's going to want to clone my voice, I can be sure of that. You don't want to hear this repeatedly. But there is that little bit of a concern there. It's like, well, if you can clone my voice, you can do my show. If you can do my show, then where do we go? Talking of concerns like that, of course, the legalities of AI have also come up. And the conclusion I can currently draw from everything that I heard at the show was, but I personally am optimistic about the world of AI. I think realistically, AI isn't going to replace us or take our jobs. It's rather going to be a part of what we do, almost like an extra tool in our arsenal. I can see how AI can be really useful. I've used it in running my business to help me write pitches to other people, to help me answer emails and act as a bit of a personal assistant. Someone raised a point, and I can't remember who they were, but if you were there, please leave a comment below. I'd love to say hi. They raised a point that maybe in the very short-term future, there might be such a thing as a label that one puts on their product, on their podcast, or on whatever they create that says this was 100% human. That'd be a really interesting world to live in, I think. I think also I'm not too worried about AI. Of course, I'm slightly worried about maybe my voice being cloned. I think people listen to podcasts like ours for authentic conversations. And no matter how good an AI language model can get, it is just that. It's a language model. It can't pick up on those little micro expressions. What does that pause mean when I'm answering a question? It doesn't know when to do that silence and when to just stop as an interviewer and allow your guests the time and space they need to think and process. But ultimately, in media such as this, I don't think AI is going to replace us. And AI isn't as good looking as me. Which is saying something, because I'm not very good looking. Oh, goodness. Something else that I was interested in was the licensing of music. Now, regular listeners to the podcast will know that I'm not averse to having the odd musician on. In episode 3, we had the Josh Frost. He was then followed by Mr. Slade. After him was Benoit Australia. And in a few weeks' time, I will be speaking to Shooby Doom, who are a metal swing band. Now, I want nothing but success for every single guest that I have on here, and I hope all of my musicians end up with massive record deals, with the kind of things where they are getting paid £1 million a minute. But of course, when they get that success, what happens to the content they made before? And how will my relationship with those rights change? At the moment, I come to an agreement with each individual guest, which basically says I can use your music in the context of this podcast to help you promote, but also to have some context about what we're talking about. Conveniently, at the podcast show were the people who deal with that, a company called PRS. Now, PRS are all about the licensing for music. Typically, when you hear someone say, oh, we've got to pay for use of that song, it's normally through PRS. So I went up to them and I quite literally said, I've had musicians on before, I've played their music, and we've had that agreement beforehand. What happens when they get a new one? And I never caught the name of the two people that I spoke to there, but you were so useful, so thank you for this. And their basic advice was, in general, it would be looked upon favourably. The record company would be happy for the free promotion that's already happened, and my agreement would be prior to theirs. I also learned that copyright law in this context is a little bit more faceted, a little bit more nuanced. I learned about two different types of copyright law. There is what's known as mechanical rights and performance rights. I'm still trying to understand the difference between the two, but effectively one concerns itself with how the song is made and one concerns itself with performance. And typically I would be worried more about the performance rights. The mechanical rights aren't really relevant to what I'm doing here. I could be wrong about that. Still a lot for me to learn, a lot for me to understand. If you can bring some more insight, please drop it in the comments below. I also learned how to interact with people. Now, I know how that sounds. Tom, you know how to interact with people. You're an adult. You're 30 years old. You should be there at this point. Now, this isn't necessarily something that I learned, but this is something I got to experience. I got to interact with so many wonderful podcasters. I swear my contact list has just bulged out like that. And because of this, there might be some new collabs happening as well, which I'm super happy about. Up until now, all the podcasters I've met have been virtual. I've met them over Zoom or over Squadcast or over whatever other platform I might be using. This is the first time I got to see people in real life. And as one podcaster there said, it can be a really lonely experience podcasting because we are kind of just doing our own thing. So to get to see each other, it's really gratifying. So that's more or less my main takeaways from just those few hours. But I am really glad that I went. And you know what? Making this video hasn't been that scary. So maybe you might see more kind of mini vlogs from me in the future. As always, please subscribe to this channel, leave a like and a comment below for the sake of engagement. Check out all of my other interviews as well. And if you're not a fan of listening to your podcasts on YouTube, you can also check them out on Good Pods. I'm currently in the top 100 indie documentary chart, which I'm super grateful for. go over there, leave me a comment. Let's start talking, because it's one of the easiest ways that I can just interact with my listeners directly. Don't forget to also follow me on all of the social medias. I'm most active on Twitter at Tom Meets People, Instagram at Tom Meets People. You can kind of see where this is going. TikTok as well at Tom Meets People. And I've also got myself a website, because that's a thing now. www. And I got myself a website. You'll find that at tommeetsinterestingpeople.com. So, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I wish you and yours all the very best.